history because of the park, and where we were was, a great location to interpret natural history and the archaeological history of the area. The park unfortunately became kind of a drainage channel for Lake Forest, Mission Viejo, all parts upstream off Aliso Creek. So we get a lot of runoff water, and the runoff water is very erosive, and what it did was expose several unknown Indian habitations along the creek. And the erosion just didn't stop for many, many years, and it kept eroding deeper and wider, and so more and more artifacts would wash into Aliso Creek. And so I talked to a few different experts in archaeology, and they said, well, that's great that you see them, but they offer really no value to us because they're out of context. They're not in the village where they originally were buried. So I said, well, what do we do with them? Well, nothing. I said, well, how about if I use them for interpretive purposes for the public? He says, if you want to haul them, that's... And these were big chunks of grinding bowls and mortars, pestles, things like that. They were heavy, not too many of them in perfect condition because they were tumbled down the creek, and some of them were broken. And some of them you could actually see were broken ceremonially. They were, I guess they call it killed. When the owner of the bowl died, then they would pop a hole through the bottom of the grinding stone and kill the stone, so it couldn't be used again. And so we have a collection of those at Aliso and Wood Canyon Park that we salvaged out of Aliso Creek primarily. We found some in Wood Creek as well, and these were from the Ahashaman Indian tribe, who were later given the name of the Juaneños. And everything I heard was that Aliso Creek was the dividing line between the Juaneños and the Gabrielinos, which were farther west. But then you talk to different people, and they said, well, that, like a wandering stream, that's a fluid line. So the boundary changed, I guess, depending on things. And that's about the only time the Native Americans would fight, would be when some other tribe would poach on their acorn or oak grove for their acorns and things like that onto their hunting grounds. So we learned about the Juaneño and the Indians and the different tribal villages. A lot of the caves in the park were natural features, but they were also what they were termed as rock shelters for archaeologists. And the Native Americans would use these overhangs in the sandstone and rock shelters as kind of a temporary shelter. They would have the campfire at the beginning at the front, and you'd see mounds of gray sand and remnants of food items, shells, fish bones, small animal bones, and things like that. And I like to describe it as, well, it was their Motel 6. They'd go down to the beach, Aliso Beach, they would harvest basketfuls of food, and then they would bring it back up Aliso Creek to rendezvous with the moving village, the transitional village. They would follow the water source up into the Santa Ana Mountains, and so they would spend the night, and then they'd take off. So, and we found lots of Indian projectile points in the park as well. Some of them would just show up out of nowhere in the washes and the creeks. And up at the base of Choya Trail, there was an unknown, like a place where Native Americans would just sit and nap heads. So we find flakes and things like that up there. And that was an unknown archaeological site at the time.